MLS Aces Podcast. This is your host, Tom Sweezy, joined by Jasson Vivang. Jasson, we are on episode 295, only 5 away from the big 300. That's a pretty big milestone. I mean, it has to excite you.
We'll have to think of something fun to do. I don't know, man. That's crazy.
I'll have to spend a few hours editing together and piecing together a few clips
like
from the last 100.
clips from every single one because we lost episode 100 the time we tried to record it. So.
Still the best episode. But of listeners, viewers of the show, the podcast, apologies of the day late drop on this. I was saying to Jasson just a few minutes ago, and we've been texting about it. This week has been an absolute shit show for me, so I do apologize. The episode is here. We are going to talk about all the crazy news and stuff going on around MLS and the U.S. soccer world. So I don't want to waste too much time, Jasson. Let's dive into it. And I'm going to start on the bottom of our little notes page here with some of the league news because I feel like we should mention it. We did close the last episode with a congratulations to the Columbus Crew.
We didn't. You did.
I mean, I was trying to keep up with the good luck that we
did. I respected it, but yeah, that we could maybe not talk about for a whole lot of time here.
Exactly. Let's mention it. Let's give some quick thoughts and we'll move on. It is what it is, right? The Columbus Crew, they lost in the CONCACAF Champions Cup Final 3-0 to Pachuca, who they continue their continental reign of CONCACAF competitions and what they've been doing for a very long time as an organization. A brace from Solomon Rondon led the way. There are some reports coming out there that the Columbus Crew camp might have fell ill to food poisoning the night before. I'm not going to sit here and speculate on anything.
Stupid, man.
But look, just some highlights of it. Patrick Schulte, he won the CONCACAF Champions Cup Best Goalkeeper Award, and the Crew's Yevin Sheberko and winger Diego Rossi, they also made the competition's Best 11. At the end of the day, though, Jasson, this is a loss. Columbus couldn't go back to back to back. They couldn't go do what the Bulls did twice or even half of that. And, they end up dropping what would have been probably the best run we've seen from an MLS team in this competition's history.
Yeah, and we've gassed them up the whole way, which I think is still deserved. I don't feel like this team is I think what'll be interesting to me is watching where they go from here, right? Because we've seen cases of LAFC just last year, right? Loses the final and kind of has a major dip in form right after. They did kind of right the ship, didn't they make MLS Cup, I want to say. My brain doesn't remember very long-term info. But they lost. I mean, they lost a lot of trophies in last year. And I'm curious. Like, I think Columbus is in. I feel like what we've seen from them is they're built to handle these sort of like heartbreaks or mistakes or whatever, things that you didn't expect. And it sucks. Like, I think we were both very high on the Crew. I think regardless of this loss, like the run they had to get there is kind of incredible and sort of like the blueprint, you can look at, an MLS team can go down to Mexico and win pretty handedly too. So like it's hard to take anything away from them because ultimately they came up short, but they have a lot they probably won't look back and be impressed by it immediately, but there's definitely a lot to look at and be pretty proud of if you're a Crew fan or if you're, the players or whatever, but even just a fan of MLS, I think there's a lot to look at and just like be happy with how it went.
I agree with you. I think, look, it's going to sting and it'll probably sting for a little bit, but I do think
bring in the pessimist.
I do think here I am. I do think the Crew should be proud of the run, proud of the performances and everything that they've done. Again, when you're talking about the modern day version of this competition, yes, LA and DC did it back in the day, but if we're talking about the modern day version, one MLS team has been the only team to do it. And yes, I think this Crew team probably maybe had the best odds if we want to throw in that LAFC team from a few years ago as well of doing it, of being team number 2. But at the end of the day, it's an extremely tough task to do. There is still the discrepancies that we talk about between Liga and Mekis rosters and MLS rosters, and they still exist. And Columbus did the most to, I think, try to mitigate those differences, and they fell short. So it is going to sting. If I was a player, if I was a coach or a front office member, I would be very upset about this for a long time. But this is something that I think players should look back fondly on and be proud of, because it was one of the more impressive runs we've seen. It's just unfortunate they're going to fall into the same bucket of MLS, runners up in this competition.
I do think one of the, I don't know, just what are your thoughts on this? But I do feel like one of the I don't know if I want to call it like a problem, but just in general, the shitty part about this tournament is for MLS teams is it's like pretty hard to get back, right? Like with the fact that there's a lot of competitions and you then have to do well, continuously. And the way, the structure of salaries work in MLS, a team that kind of goes all in doesn't necessarily have a 4-year window or whatever. It's really like a 1 to 2 year window. I mean, there's teams that have lasted longer, but like when it comes to this tournament, it's really hard to get back and be successful. And it's obviously impossible. It's really hard to win this thing, but just getting into that same position is also really hard. So, I mean, this crew team might be one of the more built teams to do that, but I think that's one of the points that sort of makes losing in these finals a little bit tougher, because it's like, well, we might not see that, that team, that edition of the team ever again. So
I agree with you, and I think it's what makes CONCACAF Champions Cup different from even like UEFA Champions League, right? Where it's, you relatively see a majority of the same teams from each league in it, right? The crew are going to have to build out and lead to future success, like we've seen with LAFC. And even maybe Toronto FC back in kind of their run in the later 2010s, of just really, I think you have to build that long-term success. You have to build that strategy, and year upon year have a roster built out that can compete in multiple competitions. We've seen LAFC do it, and they're still doing it. They were in CONCACAF Champions Cup this year, and that run fell short for them and everything. But I think the crew are going to have to continue to build out how they have been, and to transition that into more of the crew news that has been coming out around Major League Soccer. And I think the thing that's going to be making it probably even more difficult to do what you're saying, Jason, is Columbus Crew general manager Tim Bezbatchenko. I think what people and what I would consider, or who I would consider, the best the best GM in Major League Soccer over the last few years, is leaving the crew. He is heading over to be the president of Black Knight Football, which is an organization that supports groups of soccer clubs globally, which include the likes of Bournemouth, Hibernian FC in the Scottish Premier League, FC Lorient in Ligue 1, and plenty of other clubs globally. So Bezbatchenko is definitely moving on into more of like a global organization, probably City Football Group-esque, just not as big type organization, and totally deserves it. And he's probably getting his payday. But in that case, he is leaving the crew behind, where he's been a part of 2 MLS Cups. He's been a part of a Campeones Cup, and building out one of the more successful clubs we've seen in the last decade of Major League Soccer. The organization is promoting Issa Tall into that general manager role, so an internal promotion and internal hire there. I'll roll into this piece as well, because I want to get your full thoughts. The crew, they also lost last month the director of scouting and player recruitment, Neil McGuinness, who is now named as LAFC's technical director. And reports coming out today from Tom Bogert that the crew are also expected to be losing assistant general manager Corey Ray, who was also around for this entire kind of tenure of their 3 trophies in the last few years. He helped build out the crew to a successful team that won an MLS Next Pro side and made a a second MLS Next Pro final. And before that, he was also part of the Toronto FC group that was like the 2017 treble winning group, the domestic treble winning group. So the front office for Columbus is getting very different. Cleaning house, I think some decisions not probably on their part, some decisions on their part, whatever it may be. But this has me concerned for the question that you just asked me of that long-term success. Yes, they're promoting an internal guy, and yes, they're probably going to try to do things continued down the internal path and recruiting strategies and everything that they've done. But with change, Bezbatchenko is a big name. Neil McGuinness, a big name. Obviously, I don't know too much more about Corey Ray, so I do apologize. He has had success in Major League Soccer. So this does lead me to having concerns of, can the Crew keep up what they've done the last decade or so?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be really tough. Just to add, like, I didn't know much about Corey Reyes either, but just the fact that he was in Toronto for those trophies, obviously that was super successful era of TFC.
Yeah.
Bezbatchenko was also there. So,
Yeah.
like, Bezbatchenko was there to sign Giovinco. It's not like I'm just assuming that they probably are like a pair, so they're probably.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's something like that feels like that, but
yeah, I know from reports that I've seen, his future is still up in the air, so it doesn't look like he's following Bezbatchenko to this Black Knight football. But yeah, I mean, you would think though that like a guy like Corey Ray, right, who seems to have been grown and learning under a Bezbatchenko, this would possibly be an opportunity. Maybe with the promotion of Issa Tall, he's deciding to leave because he wants a general manager job since he's been an assistant GM. I don't know. There's a lot of probable possibilities of what's going on, but
I mean, there's a ton to unpack. Like, there's so many moving parts in this, and it's going to be hard to see what actually happens going forward until it is happening, right? I don't think, like, I think the team and obviously the coaching is in a really good place regardless of this one game. You know, like, we're talking still about the Crew with probably the best team in the league, best coaching, whatever. But losing these pieces hurts, and it is a bigger long-term hurt because of the fact that, like, these are the guys that are signing your players. These are the guys that are looking every day, you know, looking for how can we improve the club? How can we just improve, you know, in every level, right? Like Corey Ray, who was helped building the Crew 2, that's been a major piece. The fact that they're able to pull players from Crew 2 up to the Crew and actually play meaningful minutes in a lot of these games, that just comes from that whole investing in the whole structure. And it's those guys who led that and did that. So whoever comes in either is going to have massive shoes to fill, will have massive shoes to fill, but also pretty big expectations. And with Issa Toll, I don't know, like, if they promoted him from within, he's probably,
I would assume. He's been around. He knows the way that they do it, but
I think he would probably know the expectation that he's up under. So, and hopefully this wasn't like a shock to the Crew, right? You hope maybe like Bezbatchenko had told them, I don't know, but like you hope it wasn't a huge major shock, and then they're like, oh, promote. You know, like you want.
I mean, maybe it was like with Neil McGuinness. Maybe it was right, like after the last transfer window, guys. Like, this is my last window. I'm out. I'm getting the job at LAFC. Bezbatchenko, guys. After this Champions Cup final, win, lose, draw, whatever, I'm out. And then, you know, well, first of all, congratulations to Issa Tall. I think you have to give the dude a congratulations. Obviously, he's been a part of it. He's been at the club since 2019, so he's won trophies with the organization, and you know, he deserves a general manager spot for how good the Crew's front office has been. But I just think
been around all these guys, you know, daily.
Exactly.
It's not like it's just some random guy that they're.
It's not like they just pulled.
This guy's been in the room with all of these other guys for years.
Exactly. Knowing the ownership group and everything like that as well, I'm sure. You know, so my concern is just is the change right? Because with change, there is always going to be an adjustment period, and I trust how the Crew's ownership does things, and how they've been able to adjust and change over the years, from even an on the field of like a Caleb Porter to a Wilfred Nancy transition and everything like that. There is apparently reports Wilfred Nancy might be gone at the end of the year. So if that happens, that's even more change for Columbus. But this is stuff that's going to happen when success comes on the field and off the field, with signings and trophies, and being able to put your brand, your club, your organization in the global limelight. And that's what this CONCACAF Champions Cup run did, and obviously all the success before that as well. But it'll be some interesting road ahead for the Columbus Crew. So I'm going to go back up to the top of our notes here, Jason, and now kind of break down some news, and probably not spend too much time on each of these, but definitely chat about the more important ones. And I think I'll start off with the second managerial firing of the year, but Atlanta United have moved on from a former manager, Gonzalo Pineda. Pineda took over during the summer of 2021, and in that time made the playoffs twice last season and in that 2021 season. In 107 games managed, 38 wins, 29 draws, and 40 losses. I mean, if it was anyone to start the season, to me, I even think we said during some preview stuff, it was Gonzalo Pineda that was on the hot seat. I don't know how you have a roster that consists of Thiago Almada, one of the best young stars we've seen in a long time in this league, now a Giamakis, plenty of money and plenty of probably front office and ownership spending to go along with it, and you have a losing record as a manager, and you miss the playoffs a year of your 2.5, 3 seasons as manager. I don't know. It makes sense to me that Pineda's gone.
Yeah, I mean, this comes down to expectations, and he did not meet them, right? Like, that's for some clubs, maybe that's good enough. For Atlanta, that's not good enough. They came into the league flying, right? They have a huge fan base. They play in that beautiful stadium. Like, it's not a team that's going to just sit around. I think I bring that up a lot because, like, I think personally for me, the way a team kind of operates, they're not all operating at the same sort of level, right? And Atlanta is one that wants to be the big name or a big name in MLS. And just
I'd say they want to be the biggest name. I'll give them they want to be the biggest name for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and they should, right? Like, I would say every club should want to be the biggest name, Like, I don't think every club does. I think there's a lot that are probably like, yeah, we're good. We're good, in the middle. Some are good at the bottom, But yeah, I mean, it just comes down to being not good enough, and it's not. I mean, he was essentially 500 if you take out the draws with wins and losses. Like, the roster's too good. There's too much talent. There's too much around that team, like expectations, money, hype, talent to be where they're at, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to say. Like I said, it makes sense. The thing that I am interested in, though, is where they go from here as far as manager, because I mean, look, this is an organization that is pretty set in big name managers that they've hired. Gonzalo Pineda was maybe the first of their entire history of managers that wasn't this large global name. You went from Tata Martino to Frank de Boer to Gabriel Heinze. Gonzalo Pineda was the first to be like an MLS guy that gets a job in a big name organization in the league, and obviously didn't have the success. I mean, I would argue De Boer and Heinze didn't have the success either, but they are continuously, I feel like, looking for the Tata Martino era of Atlanta United, and I don't know if any manager is going to get you Tata Martino levels except for Tata, obviously.
I mean, they're looking for Miggy, they're looking for the success they had, the hype,
exactly,
the excitement around it, and that's just it's like not unreachable, but very difficult to get to that point.
No, for sure. But the interesting thing to me right now about the global game of soccer, and after this European season is now complete and everything like that, there's a lot of very big name managers out there. And I feel like managers that are good tactically, managers that would be able to pull players and resources and interests from all different parts of the world. So I'm not going to sit here and say
Welcome, Bruce Arena. I'm just kidding.
right. I mean, Bruce Arena would kill it down in Atlanta.
He probably would.
But no, I mean, look, I think that if I have any type of just kind of gut feeling around this, I feel like Atlanta's going to go big or go home with this next hiring. I feel like we gave Gonzalo Pineda a shot. Now we're going to go get fucking Pochettino or some shit like that. It's not going to be Pochettino, but
that would be pretty crazy. Honestly, I mean, if it was.
I would love it, but I don't think it's happening.
I think he's still a little bit too high level at this point, but
yeah, I think he's still looking at
I mean, he's technically had a pretty successful season, all things considered. Most people were surprised by that one, but
yeah, I don't think Chelsea's a breeding ground for success, but it is what it is. I'm saying, yeah.
I do like that with managers in Atlanta, they definitely give them a fair shot to prove it.
They spend the cash for them too.
They spend a lot, but they don't make like rash decisions. So, like Pineda had some success, not like major success, but like he had moments with that team, and there were moments or flashes where it was like, oh, this team is kind of insane. It was never consistent. And like you said, we came into the year thinking if it's not going well, there's a very good chance he's not there. Yeah. So, and that's what happened. But I do think Atlanta gave him a fair shot, which is something like I feel like every time we talk about a new hire for managing in MLS, it's just like, just please give him a shot, because there's a lot of times that they don't get a fair shot.
Look, the only one that I'll say probably got cut before I even expected it was like Jeahze. Like, I think he was only like 15 games or something like that. But I mean, he also was putting out a very poor product on the field. But I think Atlanta United, they're going to go.
Kind of shot himself in the foot a couple times.
They're going to go big. And I think, like you said, I think they'll give that next coach a fair shot on and off the field. Will a guy like Giammakis be around? I don't know. Apparently,
rumors there.
Yeah, $10 million agreed deal with Cruz Azul. He might be gone, buddy. He might. If you win Golden Boot and Liga MX, I'll give it to you. Okay.
There's no shot. I don't think he'd win it in MLS. Have you seen what Chicho Arango's doing?
He's pushing for Messi for that MVP race for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, in some arguments, he's probably the MVP. All right, I'm going to run through some of these transfers. A lot of them, no offense to these players, not really that important in the larger MLS landscape. So, Jason, interrupt me, put a hand up, whatever you got to do to tell me if you have anything you want to say about these guys. So, like I said, I'm going to fire through this pretty quickly. But DC United, they've used their contract buyout for left back Mohanad Giahze, the 27-year-old Iraqi international, signed with DC heading into the 2023 season. He's only had 7 appearances in that time. He's only played 1 minute for DC this year. The LA Galaxy, they've transferred homegrown center back Marcus Ferkranus to the Brisbane Roar in the Australian First Division, the A-League. The 21-year-old former U.S. Youth International center back also holds an Australian passport, so this could be a play to try to get into the international game for Ferkranus, so good for him. This season, he has 8 games played for Ventura County FC, otherwise known as the LA Galaxy 2 and MLS Next Pro. He has 68 career games played in the lower divisions of U.S. soccer. Never really, for me, I just want to quickly say he never really was on that Jalen Neal level of kind of young center backs coming up in the LA Galaxy organization. So good for him for kind of making a move for first team minutes somewhere globally elsewhere. He obviously also has family ties too. New York City FC, my boys over there, they've transferred homegrown winger Andres Jasson to Aalborg BK in the Danish First Division. The 22-year-old winger won MLS Cup and a Campeones Cup with NYCFC in recent seasons. This year, he's only made 3 appearances, and those limited minutes are due to NYCFC kind of going out and signing a bunch of young, talented wingers this offseason. In 77 career games between NYCFC and NYCFC2, he does have 7 goals and 3 assists. Just want to say, Andres Jasson, good luck. Go out there, kill it in Denmark. And, I was always a fan of the kid. He never really had an opportunity to break out into the first team. I think there's the talent there, and I'm glad he's getting to move to Europe and potentially prove that worth over there. All right, the incoming transfers. Austin FC, they've signed Danish right back / center back Mikkel Desler as a free agent. Desler most recently played for Toulouse over in France. The 29-year-old has over 300 games played in his career between Toulouse, Odense Bolt Club, and a few other spots in Scandinavia. The 31-year-old in 31 games for Toulouse last year, he had a goal and an assist in kind of League One action and European action. Europa League action. He also won a League Two, so a French second division title, and a Coupe de France with Toulouse a few seasons ago. St. Louis City, they signed an Australian youth international.
Wait.
Yeah.
I do have something to say about that one.
About Desler?
Yeah, just simple, but I think like last week I said about Austin, their goals allowed is pretty bad for a team that wants to be where they are in the standings. It got worse because they lost 5-1. So
I love how you were like, it's pretty bad. They got to do something about it next week. Just 5-1 loss.
Yeah, I looked at that and I was like, oh man, yep, they definitely got to do something. But I'm happy they bringing in a experienced center back, right back, in Desler. Just it can't hurt, right? Like this team needs a little bit more consistency. I think they have talent to be in a playoff spot. They just need to keep building. We talked about move a couple weeks ago or 2 weeks ago or whatever. They need to keep building, and they'll keep building. It seems like.
Yeah.
So
what? This is their second move of this transfer window already, or third move, I guess, if you want to count outgoing players, but second incoming player. They've signed now a DP winger. Now you're bringing in some defensive help and a dude who played a big part on a team with Toulouse that it was a major upset win in that French Cup when they won that. I remember like that was pretty big news kind of going around soccer, social media and whatnot.
They played 31 games last season. Europa League game and League One games. So,
and look, it provides so much depth. He can play center back, but I think he's more of a natural right back. You can bump John Gallagher out to left back if you need, and Gallagher in his own right has developed into a pretty good wing back in this league. So, I mean, I like the move. I think it's good call and pausing and giving Desler and Austin some love.
It was just like I've thought about it because of last week, and I was like, we talked about the winger sign. It was a Ghanaian guy, right? Yeah, and how great that was. And then I was like, well, they still got to do some work here, and they did. And I mean, it come what a time to sign a center back after 5-1 defeat. So
apparently, it's not; those aren't the only moves we're going to see from Austin this transfer window. So
keep going.
We'll see more. We'll see more.
Team with ambitions.
Yeah, that is a team that I think is ambitious to try to get to the top of MLS. I can give you that. I don't know if they've done the right steps, but I think they're on the path if things work out.
They got a taste of success. And now they're trying to get back there.
Exactly. St. Louis City FC, they've signed Australian youth international Jake Girdwood-Reich from Sydney FC. A lot of Australia to MLS conversation. It's an untapped market.
Yeah, awesome.
But the 20-year-old defensive midfielder last year finished with 1 goal and 1 assist across, almost 1,900 minutes played in the A-League. He won the Australian Cup in 2023 and was named to the A-League team of the season this past year. So I guess pretty nice little youth depth signing there for St. Louis. Probably the biggest move, and we've talked about it a bunch, so I didn't want to start with it. We don't have to talk about it too much, but San Diego FC officially signing Mexican international winger Irving Chucky Lozano from PSV. It is going to be a DP contract, and he is going to stay with PSV through the winter and will debut for the club when he's 29 years old. This dude's won pretty much every league he's ever played in. He's been successful for Pachuca, PSV, and Napoli. He scored a bunch of goals last year for PSV. He had 6 goals and 3 assists in roughly 2,000 minutes. I mean, we can talk about it again, Jason, but I think it just comes down to off the field. It's a marketing genius play with San Diego being right on the Mexican border. On the field, Chucky Lozano is going to bring goals. He is going to bring fans and then jersey sales and everything in between.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much people want us to repeat ourselves, even though I feel like I do that quite a lot. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing here. This is a splash signing. This is a build our team around a star that's going to also build a culture, right?
Yeah.
Like this is going to bring fans. This is going to put people there. This is going to bring excitement to the team. And it's just a really good first signing as a team that it seems like wants to kind of splash into MLS a little bit better than I don't know what we've seen in the past from some. There's like two types of the joining clubs. It's either they're going to be bad for 3 years and then maybe they'll figure it out in like I guess Cincinnati model, or like the LAFC or Atlanta model where it's just they come in and they're just amazing from the start. Could be the Fire model. But.
I mean, look, you can if you want to dedicate that and call it the Chicago Fire.
No, I don't. I don't want to give them any credit anymore.
I'm for it. But no, look, I do think this is a play from San Diego to be successful from the jump. This is a big time transfer. It's a lot of money spent already. Obviously, look, Lozano has to bring it on the field. I don't foresee him not bringing it. I think it will be successful, but I guess time will tell, and we'll see what Chucky in a San Diego FC jersey looks like soon enough.
That beautiful logo.
Yeah, right. The great logo on that chest. Let's keep moving. Let's stick out in California. LAFC, they've signed goalkeeper Thomas Hasal as a free agent. The 24-year-old Hasal spent his entire playing career with the Vancouver Whitecaps organization, 44 career games between the Whitecaps and Whitecaps 2, recording 10 clean sheets, and he also won the 2022 and 2023 Canadian Championships with Vancouver. Just happy for Hasal, who I know was battling a long-term injury, so only really able to sign for a club this window. So happy to see him back signed with an MLS organization. Minnesota United, they added some winger depth with the signing of Samuel Shashoua as a free agent. The 25-year-old Shashoua most recently played for Albacete in La Liga 2, where he made 17 appearances last season. In his career, he has 140 career games with 17 goals and 11 assists. Those were moves. Yeah, that's
depth signing right there.
Depth signings, that's it. Got to mention it.
A good Minnesota team that they probably know what they're doing.
Apparently, LA Galaxy are in advanced talk with Marco Reus. The deal's not officially done. I'm not going to talk about it too much, Jason. If you want to say something, go for it. But we've talked a lot of Marco Reus in the last 2 weeks.
It's just been a rumor. Like, let's just talk when it happens. And
yes, that is completely fair.
Talk about what happens, but yeah, it's just rumors.
The other strong rumor that I just do want to mention, we don't have to talk until it's official, but Tim Ream coming back to MLS potentially, according to our friends over at Top in 90, which they are a great outlet for Charlotte soccer news and just Carolina soccer news overall. Tim Ream is expected to join Charlotte FC from Fulham this window, adding to what Andrew Privet and Adelson Malanda have done. Great job.
Do they have his discovery rights?
I mean, they have to get that from the Red. Where did he leave from? Was it the Red Bulls? I think it was or Metro Stars at the time. I don't fucking know, but whatever. Tim Ream potentially coming to Major League Soccer. All right, Jason. This is roughly the midseason check-in. I think technically midseason's like next week after this shortened international window or whatever, but we are heading into an international window. There are some games going on this upcoming weekend, but what I want to just quickly kind of finish up this episode with is really the midseason check-in. When I ask you who is impressed, you can give me a club, a coach, a player. What is one of the first players or clubs or coaches that sticks out to you right away?
Eric Ramsey, for sure.
Okay.
Going a little bit. There's a lot of people you could have named for who's impressed, right?
Exactly.
But just where Minnesota's at in the short time he's been able to coach, I guess, right? Like they're in third. Only a couple points behind here, but less games played. Like they theoretically could be second or or first actually. But
Yeah.
like with the fact that it was a signing essentially a week before the season, losing Reynoso, obviously, I just think overall Minnesota United as a team has impressed, and I think Eric Ramsey should definitely get a lot of credit for that.
Fair enough. My pick of who's impressed, I'm just going to go with RSL as an organization. This was an off season where, pretty much it was a forced let go of most of the coaching staff. This is an organization that, doesn't always have the opportunity, I think, to spend the big cash, spend the big bucks. Chicho Arango last year was that, and now he's making everyone else around him better. Chicho Arango is probably at this point, with the lack of games that Messi has played, even though Messi has like 25 goal contributions.
I think they have the same amount, honestly.
Yeah, they do. Chicho Arango. So to me, Chicho Arango is the MVP frontrunner. Messi is right there. But when you look at RSL, what they've done with that, I think Ferkranus out at left back. I've mentioned him a few times in the past few weeks. I think he might be developed eventually into the best left back in Major League Soccer. I really like his game, offensively and defensively. Emeka Anelli has turned into one of the better central midfielders I think we've seen in this league. Diego Luna's popping off. I just really think this RSL organization has kind of seen an opportunity to jump into arguably one of the best teams in the league. And at this point, I'm going to say best team in the Western Conference. And what they've done this year is impressive. So I'm going to give RSL overall as an organization their love and their credit. Disappointed you, Jason? Who's disappointed? Player, coach, whatever?
I'm probably going to just say New England as an organization, just because of where I had them ahead of the season. Like my expectations for them versus where they are in dead last year. I really thought, the talent was there still. I feel like the blow up, I guess, at the end of last year, I felt like we were kind of past it, but it's kind of gotten worse and worse. And I honestly don't see a solution definitely this year. If one comes in the next couple years, maybe. But I think as an organization, and Caleb Porter, I think should be kind of embarrassed with what this team has been able to do, which is a whole lot of nothing.
I'm going to go fair enough on that point. I'm going to go Orlando City. Not that it's been completely awful, but I don't think it's been as good as expected.
That was actually funny because I almost said it's a tie between Orlando City and New England.
But it's true though, right? Like Facundo Torres, he's your big name player, right? He's your star. Hasn't really done much for me. The Nico Ladero signing, it's not like you expected him to come in and be a DP like he was a few years ago, but he hasn't really been great. He's had flashes. I think he had a game with 3 assists this year, and it's been good at points, but it hasn't been great as far as I think what he's brought. Luis Muriel has barely been scoring as your DP striker. I understand the situation with Duncan McGuire. Probably was rough on him in the club, but he's going to be gone. Pedro Giahze has been awful in net. I don't think that this team is playing anywhere near the level that we saw at any point last year. And this was a very good team last year, a team that, people thought could realistically make it out of the Eastern Conference. And, people assume they only got better this offseason, and they clearly haven't. So, there's going to have to be some changes, I think, if Orlando want to get back into being a confident playoff side. Jason, I'm going to just run through this. You got a few positions here. Your MLS.
I was trying to figure out because you sent me the email to fill it out, and I filled it out, but now I don't remember any of my picks.
It is okay. I will give you a few players. You got to tell me who you would pick out of them. Is that fair?
That's fair.
All right, cool. MLS All-Star. I'm gonna drop an official article with the official picks from everyone with MLS Aces and everything like that. But MLS Aces, what would your All-Star picks? What would your pick for goalkeeper be between Matt Freese, Christian Kalina, and Patrick Solti?
I feel like I'm just trying to remember who I went. I think I went Matt Freese, honestly. You're welcome.
Love it. Love it. I went Matt Freeze too. Left back.
I mean, you're gonna then look at mine and be like, he did not, or something.
First, when I put together the vote, I completely forgot to put in a question of like, who are you? So I don't know.
Oh, you don't even know.
No,
I
it's
wrote
all
an Emil Forsberg for one of them because I don't know how you did the midfielders, but it was confusing, and the wingers. I was like, there's a lot of people I want in this team that this form does not give me the luxury to do.
I really just tried I tried my best, man. That's all I gotta say is I tried my best with this.
Back, I know who I went.
Left back, you got Alexandros Katranis, Luca Oriano, Kai Wagner, John Tolkien, and Jordi Alba.
I went John Tolkien for sure.
I'm gonna go fair enough on that part. Right back, Aaron Herrera or Brooks Lennon. Right back, very weak this year, by the way.
I think I went Aaron Herrera.
I went Brooks Lennon, but Aaron Herrera is a very close second for me.
Kind of like a either or. Oh,
yeah.
I can't remember. I think I went Aaron Herrera though. I think I went for center backs. If we're gonna, or do you want to give the names?
Yeah, I guess you can go Thiago Martins, Moise Bombito, Adelson Malanda, Justin Glad, Miles Robinson, and Andrew Privet.
I'm like pretty sure I went Justin Glad and Miles Robinson.
Okay, I think I went Privet and Miles Robinson if I remember correctly. D mid, Sergio Busquets, Aiden Morris, Emeka Anelli, and Ashley Westwood.
Aiden Morris.
Oof. I think I'm not going to give away votes. I went with Sergio Busquets though.
Oh, look at me, Miami.
I was waiting for the first Miami pick. Okay. The other midfielders, and other midfielders can consist of like a 10, can consist of a box-to-box guy, whatever. But players who got votes on our side are Cole Bassett, Lucho Acosta, Ricky Push, Emil Forsberg, Evander, and Robin Ludd.
We picked two, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I went Lucho and Ricky Push.
I went Evander and Lucho. I think Evander's been
that's fair.
solid for a pretty
There's
bad
so season. Many for these categories. The lower one, like
the midfield and the winger got hard. Got very
really
hard.
Difficult. I kept scrolling on the click one and it'd be like, shit.
Well, I'm gonna go winger here, and I'm gonna just guess. I already know what your vote is from what you said, but we got votes for Dennis Bouanga, Jordan Morris. That's an odd one. Federico Bernardeschi, Lionel Messi, and Emil Forsberg.
I think I went Messi and Forsberg. Yeah, I typed them in on that one.
Yeah,
to be fair, in your thing, you put other midfielders. So it's like, am I picking two more midfielders?
You could go with it however you wanted on that. That's why there was another option.
Okay, that makes sense. Because I was like, I don't know what formation I'm planning here, but I don't think the All-Star team cares.
No. I was just going with the base 4-3-3.
This one is, I don't even know how many names you're going to read. There couldn't have
so
been that
there's
many
only two players got votes.
Yeah, and one of
them Arango, Christian Benteke. That's it.
Oh yeah. See, this one I picked Arango, but I'm glad Benteke got votes because of what he's doing is actually insane.
100% he deserves votes.
Oluwasai might have. Honorable mention.
I went with Arango, but I do want to finish off the episode because I think we've been a big Tani Oluwasai podcast this season. Shout out on the call up to the Canadian men's national team under Jasson.
Oh yeah, hell yeah!
Shout out Tani. It's Tani time up north above the border. Yeah, right.
Come on the pod.
Let's go, Tani. But Jason, anything else that you want to finish up this episode with?
Oh man, I didn't pull up the list of games.
Oh, you got to get the Jasons. It's a short week, so you don't have many options.
I know. There's not a lot of options. Okay. Are there only 4 games?
Yeah, it's a international window.
Incredible games here. Nope.
No pick. No pick this week.
I think I'm going to go with St. Louis versus Portland. Just a couple, middle of the table teams here. Actually kind of has some meaning this early on in the season with where the points are at. Portland's only 3 points ahead of Seattle in the 9th spot, which is a crucial spot. So we'll see what happens there. And Portland's been pretty good. Is that in Portland?
It's the whatever the first team listed is on the MLS website.
Yeah. So I actually, I'm curious to see how Portland does in St. Louis. So
I like it. I think that that has potential to be one of the better games, especially with players
There's only
out.
4 games, so they all have
I mean,
potential.
that you also got to consider players out due to international,
Right.
duty right now, and I think they have less internationals than any other right now that I can probably think of off the top of my head. So
Off the top of my head, and very quickly, that's the one I chose. Usually I look at him before the episode.
No worries. I just to give the listeners and viewers of this a little heads up, I sprung this on Jason of like, hey, I don't have any time today besides this 50-minute window.
Yeah, you're like, right now, or
that's how we do it around here. Okay, it's all
hey,
of this.
good episode, and we cooked.
Hey, and that's it. If you can cook in a flash of an eye, that just shows how smart you are talking about the subjects that we talk about.
Dedicated.
Exactly. All right. Well, I do have to hop on a work meeting, so I'm gonna go. Thanks, guys, for listening, watching, and
Have a good lunch break.
we'll catch you next week.
See